Welcome to the Electric Forest. The Electric Glen is live. How you guys doing out there? Woo. Welcome to the All About That Bass panel. We'll just be talking about Meghan Trainor exclusively for the next 2.5 hours. I hope you guys are ready. Strap it down. We have Minnesota, Dabin, and Optical here. Some legends in the building. Let's go ahead and get started, guys. First of all, Optical, it's been, you know, a long and storied career for you. And I hope you're feeling that drum and bass is back and it is here to stay. Is that the vibe that you get?
Oh, here to stay, I'd say. It's always been here to stay. But yeah, it's definitely back at the moment. Over here, anyway. In Europe, it's not gone anywhere. But
sure,
you know, it's been a long road here, up and down. But right now is great.
Do you think that there was a time that the United States had what you would consider a thriving drum and bass scene?
Oh, definitely. Like, yeah, end of the 90s, first part of the noughties was great. You know, really good. But, you know, everything has to change. You know, that's how life is, so.
Do you see it as sort of a BPM warfare that's brought us back to drum and bass's resurgence? We had dubstep cut tempos in half, you know, 4 or 5 years ago, and then we see this inching upwards into mid-tempo and then up-tempo and electro, and house is certainly, you know, felt that resurgence. And now, do you think that drum and bass is feeling that wave as fans just want to let loose?
It could be that, or it just could be that I think people want a variety of stuff when they go to, say, a festival like this. You want to hear all kinds of music, and the more genres, the better, really. So I think that's the main reason.
Christian, Minnesota, there on the end. Have you been part of that wave of increasing BPMs? I mean, obviously, when dubstep, you know, came around and swept you up and you know, brought you to where you are, did you start to inch upwards? What are your sets like now?
Yeah, kind of when I started like producing bass music, I definitely did a lot of stuff at that tempo, but halftime, not really the double time drum and bass style. But yeah, just my sets are now about half 140 dubstep tempo, and then up to 160, 170, 180.
Wow.
Yeah.
Dabin, are you able to also bring your tempos up even when you're playing live guitar on stage? Is that a tempo that you can crank yourself up to?
Yeah, I mean, when I started making music, it was kind of like dubstep was here, drum and bass was been around for a while, and I kind of found, you know, like love in each kind of genre. So I never try to stick to just making dubstep or just drum and bass. So I like my sets kind of represent that. So I bounce around a lot.
Sure, and you're part of the Cannonballin' movement, which has exploded, and a lot of that has incorporated some of the faster tempos. Can you point to any one thing as to why, you know, after hustling for years, Cannonballin's finally picking up speed with Snails and Black Tiger, Sex Machine, and all of that?
We just have a really tight crew. It's like a, you know, family vibes, you know, and we all kind of feed off each other. We're always helping each other out. Everyone's always there to give advice on productions or, you know, tour life, stuff like that. And yeah, they're some of the hardest working people that I've ever met. So
sure. Optical, I wonder, you know, as Dabin's talking about Cannonball and how that tight-knit crew has really exploded together, is that reminiscent of some of the bigger crews from the UK in the 90s and the early 2000s, like Hospital and Ram?
Yeah, well, most definitely. I mean, when I started, those crews weren't really even established, but there was definitely the family kind of vibe as far as drum and bass DJs and artists go. It's the same thing. We all used to share our knowledge and, you know, life on tour, how to make music, that stuff.
How to get to bed at night on time.
Yeah, that as well. Or not get to bed on time. But yeah, I mean, there's still that family vibe now. I mean, I've been with those guys for 20 years odd, you know, so
sure.
Always happy to see one or other of the people that I know on tour. You know, last weekend at EDC, there was a lot of the crew was there, so it was a big family vibe there. It was good, really good to see.
Minnesota, I wonder, speaking about all these crews, I feel like you're an anomaly because you've really been such an independent guy. You know, some of the first tracks I heard from you were like the big Knit Grit remixes. You were able to hit the stage with Excision and Prototype and go on a huge tour with that sound. And then, you're at Red Rocks with Spangle. Why do you think that you've been able to bounce around so much and still maintain that success without a set crew?
Coming up, like label wise, I haven't really had any associations, but I'm involved a lot with a camp at Burning Man called Camp Question Mark.
Sure.
And just other producers from that are like G Jones, Bleep Bloop, all these West Coast based producers. So that has been kind of my crew. Obviously, it's not a label, but just like people I collab with and people I go to Burning Man and do other shows with. But yeah, I think just any artist being able to produce a variety of different types of music kind of helps getting booked for those different shows. Whereas like Excision would play more heavy stuff for that tour, and Spangle was all down tempo, chill stuff. So yeah.
I wonder, and I ask you this every time we talk about it, because I think it's the fucking coolest thing ever. When you play back to back with G Jones, it's energy, it's fun. You can see that you guys are having the time of your lives up there. Tell me about how you were able to sort of craft a sound together and a style together. You put out the EP and then started doing these sets. How does something like that start? And how do you know that, the tools you're using are going to work well together and your flow is going to work well?
Just, I have a lot of trouble collaborating with people, but the first tune I did with him, he works super fast, and we just cranked out 3 tunes like in a very short period of time. So I knew that we just had a good chemistry. And he has his strengths and I have my strengths. Like he's really good at like the beat production and just making really cool, interesting beats. And I'm good at the melodic side of things. So I think our two styles come together pretty well and make something. Okay.
Speaking of oh shit, someone who's been a huge supporter of you who doesn't need to has been Bass Nectar. He's played a bunch of your remixes out. He's collabed with you and G Jones on multiple occasions now. How does a relationship like that form? And what does it mean for him to play your music out?
Yeah, it was awesome because Bass Nectar is from Santa Cruz as well as G Jones. And I remember the first time hearing that he had started playing my tunes. I was just coming up, and it was a huge thing for me. I didn't even believe it happened. And he's just a super, just easy to get in contact to. Even he talks to all the small artists and communicates with us, and it definitely means a lot because he's probably my biggest influence. So it's definitely a cool thing to have happen.
So you don't have to be a douchebag to be a superstar DJ.
No,
is that the lesson?
I think so.
Optical, I'm wondering, when you were coming up, did you have a Bass Nectar figure like that in your life? Somebody, when they played your record out, you hit the fan?
Yeah, I guess for me it'd been Groove Rider, really. He was one of the real pioneers of drum and bass and the first guy on the radio in England, and started up a lot of the early kind of club nights and stuff like that. So yeah, he was the one that I was working for 10 years as an engineer before that, so he helped me to go from just making other people's music to making my own music, having the confidence,
Did those early days provide a lot of, opportunities for drum and bass acts, or was it so weird and, off the beaten path that you really had to push to find a club date?
It definitely didn't get to being like a really worldwide thing until the end of the 90s, but in England it was, it was kind of forming itself in the early 90s, 93, 94. It did take a long time for people to accept the craziness of the idea, being so fast and, but I think now everybody's used to it, we all know what it is, but back then it was something completely new. In fact, dance music was completely new.
Sure.
In general. So.
And this explosion, obviously, there's tens of thousands of people here at Electric Forest. Did you ever see this day coming where electronic music would be at the forefront of a giant gathering like this?
No, definitely not. I always thought it'd be an underground kind of clubby-based thing. Yeah, it's been amazing, really. Yeah, and every year it just seems to be bigger and better, and I've been DJing for 28 years and I've never seen it get smaller. It's always got bigger.
Sure. Does it lose any of that intimacy or the connection with the fans as you move to the bigger and bigger stages, or do you think that...
I play totally different set to a big festival than I do in the club scene in London. It'll be very different music, but...
How so?
Well, I mean, the style in Europe is a lot more techno-based and a lot harder than they like over here. So that would be one thing. But I think also, you know, when you're at a festival, you just want to have fun and you want it to be not too challenging. You just want it to be a good time with your friends. So I think that the music has to reflect that, you know.
Sure.
I think a lot of club goers want to get like down and dirty and in the dark.
I think that some of our Electric Forest folks are ready to get down and dirty tonight.
I hope
though.
so, because that's what they're getting from me later on. So.
Awesome. Davin, coming to the U.S. from Canada, did you have any perception of what your sound needed to do to make that leap from, you know, playing in the clubs in Canada to hitting the U.S. circuit? Have you had to adjust your sound in any way?
Not really. I just try to do like what I want to do, you know, and I don't know. It's crazy the reception that I've been getting from the U.S. fans, and I don't know. I feel like they've been really supportive of my kind of genre blending into songs. So
genre agnostic.
Yeah. So I don't know. I'm just gonna keep on doing what I'm doing, and yeah.
That's great.
I think it's great the barriers are breaking down on all the genres, and you can kind of interact with all of them. You know, when I was younger, you couldn't do that. If you played a record that wasn't your style, people would be like, "What the fuck are you doing?" You know. So, and now it's a lot. It's a lot more freedom.
Is Europe like that? There's the psytrance kids. There's the drum and bass kids. There's the house kids.
I think the bass music people are all kind of in one group, but there's a lot of intermingling. You know, a lot of guys who like house music are putting bass lines in their music in London anyway. So it's kind of like a incestuous relationship a little bit, but I think it's a good thing to hear that people are, you know, multi-genre now. I think it's more entertaining for everyone, you know.
Sure, absolutely. Davin, did you know that you always wanted to add the guitar element to your sets, or is that something that's come along recently?
Well, I actually played guitar for like 9 years, and I kind of picked up producing about 3-4 years ago. And when I was producing, I was just really focused on producing and making just beats. And my friends were kind of like, why don't you're really good at guitar, why don't you fucking incorporate that into your sets? It's like, oh, that's a good idea. Like, why not? So, yeah, that's been a really recent thing, actually, adding guitar into my sets. But it's a lot of fun. I love, like, jamming out, you know.
Sure.
I get together with friends and we jam out, like, live band style.
Yeah.
And I feel that kind of vibe when I incorporate live instruments into my sets now. So
Sure. Christian, did you come from an instrumental background?
Yeah, I started playing guitar probably around the age of 10 or 11. And when I moved out to California when I was 18, I really wanted to be a musician. So I was going to college, but also trying to find just different bands to play in.
Is this UC Santa Cruz?
Yeah, UC
Go
Santa Cruz.
Slugs.
Yeah, and it just became super frustrating to try to find people with the same mindset. So that was one of the main things that was enticing about producing music, is that you're the only person that you don't have to depend on anyone else. You can do whatever you want.
How are your chops?
At guitar?
Yeah.
I have not played guitar in a while, so probably pretty shitty.
Is there a Minnesota live band on the horizon, though? Is that something that could ever happen?
No, I don't think so. Yeah, to be honest.
We see that trend happening across, a lot of acts. We saw the pendulum shift to the laptop DJ for the most part, 4 or 5 years ago, and now we see a lot of acts incorporating live instruments. Do you feel any pressure to do that? Or you've always done your own thing, I suppose.
I don't. I feel like in order to do that live type of thing, you really have to keep that in mind when you're producing the music. So if you do that, that's totally cool. And you should, if you can, have that be a live thing. But just the way I produce music, I don't think that way. I just like to put in whatever I'm feeling. So I just don't think in the near future that wouldn't really work out for my music.
Sure. It's always been such a thing that drum and bass acts have had a vocalist, either, someone singing or someone rapping.
What he said, we had live acts for a bit, but we did write all of the music with that in mind. I wouldn't like to try and translate anything I did in the studio into a live thing. It would be pointless, You'd just be miming, it'd never be tight, I don't see the point in that. But, it's good when you've done it the right way, when you planned it so that you can play the actual instruments and, get the same sound as the record, but live, then that's a worthwhile thing doing. But I think a lot of this live stuff's come about because, you've got these huge shows, big setups, and it needs something visual.
Yeah.
People want to see, stuff going on. And some DJs do just stand there and they don't dance or do anything. That's not necessarily very visually stimulating.
Sure.
I mean, I've had to adjust my set to these things now and jump around and get on top of the decks and throw things. And but,
which the fans respond to, I imagine.
yeah, I mean, I enjoy it as well. I enjoy it a lot. It was, it's good for both of us, I guess.
Sure. Did you also grow up, playing instruments, or have you always been, on the engineering
I came
side?
from a pretty musical family. Yeah, we all were learning instruments from very young. Yeah, I don't play anything really that well, but
Yeah.
I got a dabble in everything.
Sure. I mean, it's got to be impossible to see the fact that you can make music by yourself and then try and get into a room with 4 dudes and do the same thing. Takes twice as long, and there's infighting, and somebody ate my dip out of the fridge.
Yeah, we did a 2-year run with a live band about 5 years ago, and I found it the hardest thing I've ever done. The sound checking the gear, and I mean, it's twice as much work for starters, and then you've got to get along with everyone. I mean, luckily it was my brother and Ed Rush. It's like my family, so I was on tour with my family. It was okay, but I can imagine the stresses of being in a band are pretty tough.
Sure. Christian, your remixes came out from the Voyager album, and some are trickling in. What are you working on now, or is it all festivals all the time this summer?
I have 2 new tracks with vocalists on that are 100% done. I'm going to play tonight. And
Ooh.
Yeah, I'm excited to play those. I've only played them a few times.
That's going to be on the Tripoli stage at 7:30.
Yes, yeah. And other than that, yeah, my touring schedule has been fairly heavy the last year or 2 years. So this year I'm trying to take it easy, so I could be home and produce a little bit more, and just get some more tracks out.
Excellent. And Ed Rush and Optical will be on after you at 8:30 on the Tripoli stage. What's new for you coming out? We've singles,
got a
new albums?
album out in September, which has taken a very long time to write because we've been on tour most of the time.
As they all do.
Yeah, so I'm really happy that's over because it was just, lost a lot of sleepless nights the last year or two.
Have you found a home for that, or is that self-released?
Yeah, we have a label. Yeah, we've had Virus has been running since 1998, so we're just releasing everything ourselves. Yeah,
that's beautiful. Virus is huge.
Yeah.
And Davin, what's new for you in the studio world?
Yeah, I just my new song premiered on UKF a few days ago. So
Excellent.
That's going to be coming out in 2 weeks, I believe.
Awesome.
And I'm currently working with this band called Ember Island. They just did a official remix for Jack U.
Oh, cool.
So yeah, they're super talented and up and coming. So I'm really excited to actually work with a band now.
That's awesome. And you played Ranch Arena yesterday in the VIP tent. Any more secret sets coming this weekend?
Who knows? I mean, Black Tiger, Sex Machine, and Snails are still playing, so who knows what can go down.
Excellent. Might be a little collaboration in the works. Minnesota, Davin, Optical of Ed Rush and Optical. Thank you so much for joining us on this All About That Bass panel. Thank you guys so much. We're going to be talking to The Works, Dopapod and Talk here in just a little bit. Stick around, play with some